All right, thank you very much for meeting with me today.
You're very welcome.
Can you please introduce yourself?
My name is James Kall, and I play the characters of Nick and Doug in Come From Away.
And why did you become interested in theater in the first place?
That's a very interesting story. I come from a rather large family, and I was very shy as a kid. And it was my father's idea to try to get me involved in something that would help me come out of my shell. And he was a professional baseball player, and then he was a talent scout for the Cleveland Indians baseball team. So one summer when I was 14, he got me a job as the mascot. So I had to dress up in a costume and run around the stadium, and that's what did it. I loved that. I loved the freedom of performing as somebody else and entertaining people. So it's my dad's fault.
Wow, that's a great story.
I know, right? And I know that's not a likely story. Both my mom and my dad were very supportive of me going into this profession because they knew I was passionate about it, and they figured I would regret it if I didn't at least try. And now, this is 37 years I've been working professionally as an actor, so I feel very fortunate.
Any regrets?
Any regrets? Nope. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom.
What do you wish you knew when you were just starting out?
What's that?
What do you wish you knew when you were just starting out?
What were they wishing me?
What do you wish you knew? Like,
what do I
if
wish
you
I
could
knew?
change
I'm so sorry.
anything.
Yeah. If I could change anything, I think I was just thinking about this today. This is very strange. To not judge myself as much as I did, because a lot of other people will be doing that for you. To just be myself. I know that sounds simple, but I always thought, oh, I have to figure out who I need to be in this business and who they want me to be, instead of just being myself, which has been working pretty well lately. So yeah, I feel like I wasted a lot of time trying to, but I didn't. I mean, I'm still here, right? I'm still working, so I learned, I grew, yeah. So I wish I'd have known that. I could just relax and be who I am and look the way I am.
And when did you first hear about the Come From Away musical?
I believe it was when the show was in its first stages, wherever it was out west. I can't remember if the first theater was La Jolla Playhouse or Seattle, I'm embarrassed to say, but I have a good friend, Lee McDougall, who's playing my role, who's the original Nick and Doug. And so I was sort of following, and also Astrid Van Weeren, who's in the show, they're friends of mine. So I was following it because of them on social media and just correspondence with them. I didn't know much about the show. I knew what it was about, but I think, like a lot of people, I kind of questioned whether it would work or not. When I first heard about it, I thought, yeah, I don't know, a 9/11 musical, we'll see. But when I saw it in Toronto, when the Broadway cast was here prior to going to Broadway, I was here at their first preview and just was blown away and was a mess, was sobbing and ecstatic and laughing and thought, oh my God, I'd love to be in this show someday, but I never will be. That's what I thought. See, putting myself down, because I thought, well, I'm not a good enough singer perhaps, or there'll be such competition for this show. But here I am, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. It's a great experience.
How did you get the part?
To get the part, my agent set up an audition for me with the casting director, Stephanie Gorin, who is the Canadian casting director. And it was sort of a pre-screening, and I went in with her and sang a song and read a couple of scenes as Nick. And I don't think I read as Doug. And then she said, okay, I think you're right for it. You get a second audition, and the second audition was for the entire creative team. So David and Irene, and our director, and choreographer, and musical supervisor. And again, went in, sang Stop the World, a song that Nick and Diane sang, and did a couple of scenes. They played with me a little bit, redirected it a little bit, had me play around with some accents. And then I left, and I thought, well, I felt good. I felt like I did well, but I thought I'd be in there longer and they'd want to sort of experiment more or match people up because it's such an ensemble piece. But that was it. I left and I was like, okay, I did my best. That's all you can do, right? Let it go. And then I think a day later my agent called and said, hey, you hit it out of the park is what he said. And they're going to make you an offer. So there you go. Yeah, I'm still, yeah, I remember that day very well.
And what was the learning process like? You know, all the accents and like choreography and everything.
The learning process for the show was, it was very interesting because we were the first company that they were staging after the original company. So we were sort of the guinea pigs in how they were going to remount this show. But luckily we had a relatively long period of rehearsal, and one of the best things was from day one we had the revolve on the stage, we had all of our props, we had some of our costume pieces, so we had everything we were going to need to transform from one character to the next and to be able to clearly tell the story. It was we read the script several times with each other, we watched some films, we had a great dialect coach who helped us. The Newfoundland dialect was new to me, although I do have some very good friends who live in Newfoundland and love their dialect. So I've been sort of bastardizing it for a few years, but now it's kind of fun to do it for real. And I've done a lot of roles where I've had to use a British accent before. I play a lot of Brits, so that one sort of came easily. The choreography, thankfully, because I wouldn't call myself a dancer, but thankfully it's more movement based, and it was still challenging at times, but we did it, and yeah, it was one of the most collaborative processes for me as an actor that I've had in a while, where you really had a lot of input. Even though we were remounting something, we were trusted to make it our own, and there was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of room to play in a very safe space. So, yeah.
Was it scary, you know, like stop the world when you walk on the chairs and they keep moving them? And
Walking on those chairs, yes. Knock on wood or something. I've only fallen once, and by fallen I meant I just had to step off at one point, and that was months and months and months ago, a year and a half ago, when we were in Winnipeg. And it was literally just a misstep, and no big deal. It's not bad now. I like it. I look forward to it. I don't think about it. So, yeah. I have a good balance.
that's important.
Yeah, it's good. And you know what? I'm behind the actress playing Diane, whether it's Barb or one of the covers. They sort of set the pace and the pattern, and so I don't even really have to look at the chairs. I just can kind of look at them, and I know when I'm supposed to stop and how far I'm supposed to go. So.
How do you build the character? Do you invent a backstory, or?
For this, the backstories are there, right? Because we're playing real people. Doug is sort of a combination of Bonnie Harris's husband, Doug, and an air traffic controller that we met when we were there in January. Don, his name was, because the real Doug isn't an air traffic controller. But it was easier for us because we knew their backstories, right? But yeah, for some roles, directors will ask you to come up with a backstory, but because we're playing real people, that was done for us. My process was just to familiarize myself with the lines. I don't memorize them because you never know what you're going to get coming at you. So if you memorize how you're going to say a line before you hear the way Diane or the way Beulah or the way another character is going to say their line to you, then there's no point in putting it in ink until it's all set. But yeah, I give myself permission to make mistakes and go too far and embarrass myself, and we all should have that permission. I direct as well, and I will often tell my actors to go way too far with it, because I find it's easier to pull back and to pare down rather than to try to force something out of them. So it was fun. It was fun watching everybody in this. make mistakes and embarrass themselves. And like I said, it was a safe room, so we laugh about it now. One of the characters, one of the actresses, I won't say her name, but for her Newfoundland character, she decided to give the character a limp to you know, delineate from her main character, her comfortable main character. And she did it for a few days, and finally the director was like, are you doing that on purpose, or are you hurt? And she was like, no, I just thought I'd make a choice. But he said, well, it's kind of drawing attention and it's slowing things down when she's trying to walk across the stage with the limp. So things like that, and we laugh about it now because we're like, yeah, can you believe that, or you know, whatever. But it's fun. It's fun though. What happened sort of organically was that you'd find different physicality between characters, right? Without even thinking about it, like because Nick was wearing a suit coat and was much more on guard or proper in a way. It was a much more erect performance, if you will. Whereas Doug is kind of like more grounded, and takes bigger steps, and that's so that just happened naturally. It was fun.
What was it like to meet the real people for the first time?
I gotta tell you, it was a first for me. I've played real people before, but they were dead, so I didn't get to meet them, obviously. But it was incredible. It was incredible. We've become good friends. I've become very good friends with Nick and Diane, and the fact that we weren't expected to imitate them, but just sort of bring some of their essence to our performances. Meeting them was a gift because it really did enlighten me. They are so in love. They're funny as all get out, so that helped me realize that Nick isn't, as one of the characters says, has a stick up his butt, but he may come off that way, but he doesn't at all. So I don't know, I'm honored. I think of them every single day, and Doug and Bonnie, and the fact that we're telling their stories and honoring those people and not making fun of them, not imitating them, if you will. It's quite rewarding as a performer. Yeah.
What was it like to go to Newfoundland?
You know what? I can't wait to go back. It was my first time there in January, and as I said, I have really good friends there, and I've been meaning to go. My partner goes often for work, and he's like, "Oh, you've got to go! It's so stunning." And we were going in January. We went in January, so we thought, "Oh, this is going to be miserable." But we had such incredible weather for Newfoundland in January, and it really did take my breath away as soon as we sort of got out of the airport, and it was just a different smell. It was a different, like that salt air or something. It was just it just got into me, and I was like, yeah, I can understand why this place is magical in a way. I know it's rough, the weather, and it's rough living on the rock at times, but the people are what we talk about in the show. They were so gracious, so welcoming. I gained 10 or 15 pounds because the food was amazing and the beer. I saw so many incredible sights and learned a lot about. I think it certainly influenced my performance when I got back, because now I could envision more clearly what I'm talking about. I had seen pictures of the Dover Fault, but being there, standing up there, looking out over this immense landscape where these continents once came together. Yeah, now I have that image every single night, and it's just made it's fleshed it out quite a bit more. So yeah, I want to go back. I can't wait to go back. Have you been? Yeah, I love Newfoundland. I love the rock.
What do you remember about your first performance in Come From Away? What was it like?
The very first performance was both exhilarating and terrifying, because the audience was so close. We were in Winnipeg, and the audience is still very close here, and because there's so much direct address in the show, we talk right to the audience as if we're talking to a friend telling the story. It was a bit jarring at first, but the response from the opening number, it just hit me like, this is going to be a ride. This is going to be a good ride. People are here to have a good time, to be moved, to be entertained, to learn, and yeah, oh yeah, it was one of those great days. And the opening nights I say, because we had the opening night in Winnipeg, we had opening night at the Royal Alexandra, and then the opening night here at the Elgin Theatre. Those are just off the charts, right, with the excitement and it's unique. For me, it's unique. I always say, because I'm sort of nearing the end of my career, I think by choice, that this would be an incredible way to go out. This show has changed me as a person because of the message of the show and the sort of come from kindness initiative that we've created, of paying it forward and taking the message of this show, taking it to heart and bringing it into our own lives. It truly has made me it's just made me a kinder, not that I was mean before it, but it's made me a kinder person, it's made me a more charitable person, it's made me a more patient person, less judgmental, and so what a way to go out if this is it. You know?
Speaking of kindness, I know that you had a relaxed performance recently. What was it like?
You know what? I hope we do another relaxed performance. It was, again, one of the highlights of my career, because there were people there who obviously don't really ever get a chance to experience this for obvious reasons, whether it be their their vocal outbursts or their agitation or having to get up and move around. But the fact that the house lights were up at half so we could see everybody, it's almost made me cry. Because you could see these families with their kids or their brothers and sisters who they never get to share this experience with them, right? Because they'll be asked to leave a theater, or they're just too embarrassed to bring them. I shouldn't say embarrassed, but they're just uncomfortable. And to see all those families with their loved ones all enjoying the show as a unit, it was phenomenal. And I do hope we can have that experience again. Yeah, it really touched me, touched a lot of us.
How do you keep a long-running performance fresh?
That's a very good question. It used to be difficult. I've done several long runs. The longest I've done was 3 years on the show, and it was right after I finished grad school. I was doing a production of Fiddler on the Roof on tour in the U.S. and Canada. Great role, playing Muddle the Tailor, but like the third year of singing tradition, I was just wanting to, go crazy. But I needed to stay with it because I wanted to. I had a great job and I was paying off my student loan and I wanted to buy a house and whatnot. And what hit me one afternoon, it was a Sunday matinee, and I came out on stage and I was like, I can't believe I have to do this again in my mind, right? And I looked in the audience and there was this special needs young girl in the front row, all dressed up, like just out to have a really good time and smiling, and maybe it was her first time in the theater. Maybe she comes to the theater because that's where she feels safe. Whatever, but I focused on her and I, again, almost started to cry because I thought, who do you think you are? You've got this great job that people would kill to have. You have the power to move people, to influence people, and it's not that hard a job. I mean, I don't mean to be putting it down. It's not manual labor. Yes, it's exhaustive at times, but I'm not digging holes, or I'm not building houses. I'm working on stage, and so from that moment on, and that was 30 years ago, almost. If I ever start feeling like I can't do this anymore, I think of her. That being said, this show, I don't think I'll ever have that feeling. It's fresh every day because of the interaction with the audience, because it's obviously different audience every night, and because the show goes so quickly and we don't have a chance to go sit in our dressing room and think about, I'm tired, I want to go home. You're just going once the show starts, and check with me in 5 years if it's still running, which I hope it is. And I bet I will say the same thing. I'm not tired of it. I'm not bored with it. So this one is easy to keep fresh. It's because it's an ensemble piece, right? So you have so much connection in the show. Nobody's out there starring and the others are supporting them. We're all supporting each other. So it keeps you busy. It keeps you on your toes.
What's your favorite moment from the show, if you must choose one?
Favorite moment from the show, I think the last airplane scene where we sing Somewhere in the Middle of Nowhere, because it's such a jubilant song about what came out of this period. There's something about the movement that we do in that number, and the harmonies in that number, and the fact that I get to make out with Diane, and I mean and Barb, who's my friend, to tell this incredibly happy, positive story amidst all this sadness and devastation that happened during that period. There's something about that number that just elevates me, and I look forward to it every night. Me besides kissing Barb, forward to singing that song.
Is there anything you would like to talk about? We have like 17 minutes left.
Anything I'd like to talk about? Wow, put on the spot, let me think. I personally believe that this show is such a gift, and I am ever so thankful that Tom Brokaw came up with that documentary that during the Vancouver Olympics, which then I think spawned Michael Rubinoff to get the idea that this should be on stage, and found David and Irene, who so eloquently told this story, which is still unbelievable that they made this subject work. But it's because they focused on the people and not the event, right? That it is such a gift and such a necessary reminder, I think, of what theater has the capability to do in terms of inspire and change, which we need right now with sort of the bleakness and the polarization and the negativity that exists right now in our world. It came at the right time, and so I hope, and I think it will continue to resonate for a while. It's interesting performing for kids who weren't alive when on 9/11. A lot of the audience wasn't alive, but they still, it still means something to them, even if they weren't there when the event happened. And I've seen sort of that ripple effect of the kindness and the generosity that took place at Gander. We've seen a lot of that here with our initiative of paying it forward. One story in particular, we've been working with, I became friends with this woman named Peg Papakiriakou, nice Irish name, it's a Greek name, who is a teacher, retiring this year. She's at Maple Creek Public School in Vaughan. And she became a super fan of the show, and she's been here many times. So we got to know her, and she's like this super teacher, and she has gotten her entire school involved with our initiative and paying it forward, and has reached out to the school board about putting the Come From Away 9/11 Pay It Forward story into their curriculum. But what she did with her kids on 9/11 last year was amazing. We each gave them, Lisa, I partnered with our stage manager, Lisa Humber, and so we ended up giving her $300 for the kids to use however they wanted to pay it forward on 9/11, and they came up with some of the most imaginative ideas. Simple things like buying flowers and giving them to strangers, and one woman just broke down because I guess she had just lost her grandfather the day before, and this was kind of a gift of remembrance from him. And one kid decided they wanted to do a birthday box for some indigenous children living north of here, right, who don't have a lot, who can't afford, because groceries are so expensive up there. So they put together birthday boxes with everything you'd need for a birthday party it came, for these kids living on the reservation, and that just blew us away. And they were so excited. They want to keep doing it every year. They want to do it more than just on 9/11, and they want to challenge other schools to pay it forward. And so yeah, I'm embellishing and enjoying, and so appreciative of the ripple effect that this show has had, and I hope it continues. I hope there's a tsunami instead of a ripple, a tsunami of kindness to get the world back on track.
Wow, that sounds incredible.
I think so. Yeah.
And do fans reach out to you and tell you like how it affected them?
Oh yeah, we hear from a lot of fans. Sometimes immediately right after the show. Oftentimes they'll tell us where they were on 9/11, the older folks. But mostly they just come up and are so thankful to have experienced the show and to have been so moved. Everyone says, not everyone, but they often say the same thing. I can't believe how much I laughed right after sobbing, and then laughing again and sobbing again, and that all happened in 110 minutes. And yeah, we've gotten a lot of, and we've gotten some beautiful letters from people about what the show has meant to them, and whether they experienced loss in their life. Or there was one girl who the show moved her so much, a young teenage girl. She decided she needed to come out to her parents, and she did, and they were so thankful that she was living her life honestly with them, and little things like that. That theater is powerful. Theater can change the world. I know that sounds trite, but it's anything but. It's communication. It's communication on the largest, in arts, I think, on that scale. I don't know, because it's so broad, but can be so intimate. I just think it has that power. I'm glad I'm doing it. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad.
And the last question. What's, in your opinion, the most common misconception about the job of an actor?
That it's easy, or that we get paid a lot of money when you're all rich. Some of you can be, but yeah, people think, oh, it's not a real job. Whatever, get a real job. I mean, how hard can that be? Well, it ain't easy. It's constant rejection and being told you're not good enough, and you have to have thick skin. So it's not a job for the weak.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Gosh, thank you. That was great. That was like cathartic.